Hey guys, welcome to Midnight Screaming. My name's Melanie, and last night I went and saw the film In a Violent Nature, directed by Chris Nash. And this is one of my cats who has insisted on joining me today. This film is very reminiscent of Friday the 13th and other slasher films. The film follows our main character, Johnny. He is basically the Jason Voorhees. He has been resurrected and he's causing havoc on this group of college-age campers. I thought this film was really interesting. I really loved the way it was shot. The audience is seeing everything from the villain's perspective. The camera is behind his shoulder. We are walking with him. We are seeing what he's seeing. We are hearing the things he's hearing. It's like a story that's been told many times, but they were able to take something that is extremely familiar to the audience, and they were able to make it kind of new by adding this spin of we are seeing things from his perspective. I especially enjoyed how we were hearing things from his perspective. I think it's kind of funny in horror movies when there's like a group of people that are being chased by a killer and they kind of crouch down together and they're whispering to each other and the killer's probably like 10 feet away from them. How do they not hear these people whispering? But in this film, we hear things from his perspective. So when a group is pretty much 15 feet away from him, he can hear them kind of discussing their plan, how they're going to get away, how they're going to distract him. I thought that was pretty inventive because I've always wondered, like, how do they not realize that the killer can hear them? We don't really get to know the group of campers very well. We don't really get to learn that much about them, but I think that kind of benefits this film because they're not the main characters. Johnny is the main character. I thought the lore to this film was pretty solid. The lore of Johnny is explained very detailed. They did a pretty good job making the audience aware of his motivation, his capabilities as this kind of supernatural killer. And as we're following along with him behind his shoulder, when we see the people he's walking towards, we just know, like, oh, it's over for them. I think the director fully made the audience realize, like, the gravity of the violence that this character could enact on everyone. I thought this movie was inventive, even though it has kind of a formulaic story that we're all very aware of. The kills were pretty brutal. Some of them may have not been physically possible. I feel like they were brutal without kind of going over the edge and making it too kind of campy. This film is kind of a slow burn, but it's really only an hour and 34 minutes, and I think it's the perfect length. I was pretty invested in what was going on. I do think the Rotten Tomatoes score is kind of interesting. It has like an 89% as of right now critic score, but a 48% audience score. I would probably lean more with the critics on this one. I really enjoyed it. I think they made a familiar story compelling, interesting. There was a little bit of a new spin on it. I really enjoyed it. Okay, here are some spoilers, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, please bypass the rest of this video. Johnny is basically modeled after Jason Voorhees. When he was a child, he was mercilessly bullied. When he was a child, he was bullied by a bunch of lumberjacks and loggers that lived in the town. He had a learning disability, so people poked fun at him. We learned one day that a bunch of lumberjacks convinced him to go on top of this bell tower, telling him, oh, there's a bunch of toys up there, go up there. And it's a prank, and he falls from the top of the tower and dies. So after he falls to his death, the loggers and lumberjacks kind of decide to cover up the crime by putting a vintage firefighter mask on him and making it kind of look like he was up there playing by himself. Shortly after that, Johnny came back to life and kind of massacred a ton of people in that town who were all lumberjacks and loggers. And the police kind of covered it up and said, oh, it looks like there was some sort of meat poisoning and a bunch of wild animals came in and tore everyone to shreds. His resting place is underneath the tower with the locket that his mother gifted him over it. This locket is the only thing kind of keeping his soul at rest. So at the beginning of the film, we see this group of campers kind of goofing off right where he's buried, and they see this locket, and one of the boys takes the locket. And a few moments pass, and we see Johnny crawl out of the ground and resurrect. And you could tell the only thing he's thinking of is, where is the locket? So the whole movie, you're kind of following Johnny around as he's looking for this locket. You see him kill someone, look through their pockets, and realize that the locket is not there. I appreciated the lore. I liked his backstory. I think it gave us just enough information to know, like, what he went through, what he's after. The end of the movie is kind of open-ended, and it kind of leaves room for a sequel if they wanted to do so. I'm assuming that the director probably intended the ending to be a little vague. Johnny was not killed again, so it bears the question, did he go back to his kind of final resting place? Or is it because he's awake? Is he just in the woods waiting for more people to show up to kind of violently murder them? Or what's going on? I think the film kind of touches on the fact that humans kind of have like the natural impulse for violence. Some people can ignore that impulse and then some people cannot. It touches on the fact that the woods is kind of a scary place and it's full of brutality. I would personally probably rate this movie probably an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I went with a friend who kind of went in blind and she really enjoyed it, not knowing what the movie was about. Even though the story will feel extremely familiar if you were a slasher movie fan, a Friday the 13th fan, I think they bring kind of a fresh spin to the movie. I thought the way it was shot was very interesting. I love kind of being over his shoulder, experiencing the story from the killer's perspective. I feel like it kind of helps you understand the killer more, and really all he wanted to do was find that locket. This movie was basically a love letter to Friday the 13th and other kind of summer slasher movies, and I think like the spirit of Jason Voorhees lives on in this film. I would highly recommend it if you enjoy slasher movies. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, follow my channel. I would really appreciate it. Hope you all have a great weekend.